You weren't the problem in your family. You were the alarm system, and they punished you for going off. You felt too much, saw too clearly, asked questions that made the room go silent, and somehow, you became the difficult one, the sensitive one, the one who needed to change. But here's what nobody told you. What if your sensitivity wasn't a flaw? What if it was the most intelligent thing about you? In dysfunctional family systems, there's always one person who carries the truth. Not because they want to, but because they can't help but see it. Psychologists call this the identified patient, the family scapegoat, the black sheep. But Carl Jung understood it differently. He saw these individuals as the ones who refused to participate in the family's collective unconsciousness. Let me show you how this works. If you recognize these 5 patterns, you weren't difficult. You were awake. 1. You named feelings that everyone else was pretending not to have. You said, "I feel sad," and they said, "Stop being dramatic." You said, "This hurts," and they said, "You're too sensitive." The problem was never your emotions. The problem was that your honesty threatened their denial. 2. You remembered things they wanted forgotten. That didn't happen. You're remembering it wrong. Why do you always bring up the past? Your memory was evidence, and evidence threatens comfortable lies. 3. You questioned rules that didn't make sense. Because I said so was never good enough for you, not because you were defiant, because your nervous system could detect when authority was being used to avoid accountability. 4. Your presence changed the energy in the room. They called it starting drama. But really, you disrupted the performance. Healthy families don't need performances. Dysfunctional ones can't survive without them. 5. You were expected to manage everyone else's emotions. Don't upset your mother. You're stressing your father out. Why do you have to make things difficult? You became the emotional regulator for people who refuse to regulate themselves. If even one of these resonates, pause this video right now. Take a breath. Because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see your entire life. Carl Jung spent his career studying one fundamental question: how do we become who we truly are? He called this process individuation, the journey from who your family needed you to be to who your soul is calling you to become. But here's where it gets difficult. Individuation requires separation, differentiation, the courage to say, "I am not you." And toxic families experience that as betrayal. Because enmeshed systems don't have boundaries. They have emotional hostages. In a healthy family, your growth is celebrated. In a toxic family, your growth is a threat. Let me explain why. Jung also discovered something he called the shadow. These are the parts of ourselves we reject, deny, or hide because they're too painful to acknowledge. Now here's the key insight. Families have collective shadows too. The addiction nobody mentions. The abuse that gets rewritten as discipline. The neglect that gets called independence. The rage that gets labeled as just how dad is. And when you, the aware child, start to see these shadows clearly, you force the entire family to confront what they've been avoiding. And most people would rather attack the messenger than face the message. This is why the most conscious children often become the family scapegoat. Not because they're broken, but because their clarity breaks the illusion. Research shows that children who become identified patients in dysfunctional families often have higher emotional intelligence, greater capacity for self-reflection, stronger sensitivity to incongruence between words and actions, advanced pattern recognition abilities. In other words, your sensitivity was intelligence. Your difficulty was discernment. Your problems were actually your strengths trying to survive in a system that punished awareness. This is the truth toxic families never want you to discover. You weren't too much. They were offering too little. So what happens when you finally see the pattern? When you realize you've been carrying shame that was never yours to carry? Most psychology content stops here. They tell you to set boundaries or practice self-care, as if a lifetime of conditioning can be undone with a bath bomb and a firm no. But Jung understood something deeper. True healing isn't about fixing yourself. It's about unbecoming everything that isn't you. Let me show you what this actually looks like. Step 1. Grieve the family you needed but never had. This is not about bitterness. It's about truth. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. The parent who couldn't emotionally regulate. The sibling who learned to survive by mimicking the abuse. The grandparent who perpetuated cycles they never questioned. Grief is not weakness. Grief is your soul honoring what was lost, even if what was lost was only a possibility. Step 2. Reclaim your exiled parts. Remember all those things they told you were too much? Your anger. It was boundary setting trying to emerge. Your sadness. It was your heart refusing to go numb. Your questions? They were your intuition protecting you from gaslighting. This is shadow work, not rejecting the parts of yourself they rejected, but integrating them, honoring them, letting them teach you. Because the goal isn't to become what they wanted. The goal is to become whole. Step 3. Build your chosen family. Here's what most people get wrong about family. They think it's about forgiveness, but Jung would say it's about differentiation. You don't have to forgive people who aren't sorry. You don't have to maintain relationships that require you to shrink. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. What you do have to do is release them from the role you needed them to play. Your mother will never be the mother you needed. Your father will never validate the pain he caused. Your siblings will never acknowledge what you all survived. And that's okay, because your healing doesn't require their participation. Family is not who you're born to. Family is who shows up, who sees you, who makes space for your becoming. These are the people you choose, the souls who recognize yours. Not because you share blood, but because you share values, authenticity, and mutual growth. There's a reason this video found you today. You've spent years wondering if something was wrong with you, wondering why love felt like a test you kept failing, wondering why you couldn't just let it go or move on. But the truth is this: the soul you're becoming was always there. The pain just burned away who you were pretending to be. Your family didn't reject you because you were broken. They rejected you because your wholeness reminded them of their fragmentation. And that is not your burden to carry anymore. The journey of individuation is not easy. It will ask you to walk away from familiar dysfunction toward uncertain authenticity. It will require you to trust your inner knowing more than their external validation. But on the other side of that pain, freedom. Not from your past, because your past made you, but from the false stories about what your past means. You were never the problem. You were the alarm system they couldn't silence. And now, you're finally learning to trust your own signal. If this resonated with you, comment, "I see it now," below. Not for me, for you, as a declaration that you're ready to stop carrying what was never yours. And if you want more psychology that goes beyond surface-level advice, subscribe to Mindros. Because some truths can't be soft-souled. Take one breath for the child you were. They did the best they could with a system that was rigged against them. And look at you now, still here, still growing, still becoming.